Have you ever noticed how often our lives turn out so much better than we could have imagined? You might picture something in your mind, right? And you might imagine how it could unfold. But when the experience actually happens, we find ourselves saying, like, oh my God, that turned out way better than I could have imagined. Why does that happen so often? That's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to Inner Cosmetics. This is the space where we explore the unseen layers of life, awareness, consciousness, the deeper truth of who we are. No matter your profession, no matter what your role is, where we find ourselves in the world, there's only one source expressing itself through all different forms. The body, always constantly reminded, the body is simply the instrument, it's the avatar. What you truly are is the awareness that's moving through it. So before we dive further into today's conversation, I'm excited to share, something that many people have been finding helpful. It's new, and it's called Comfort Care Calls. Realizing, right, that clarity doesn't come from us thinking harder. Clarity comes from hearing ourselves, whether it's out loud, whether it's in the stillness. I created this new endeavor, Comfort Care Calls, for a space where you can speak freely, allow your own awareness to respond, because the answer is already within you. It's just a different platform to allow that answer to surface. So if that resonates with you, you can always reach out to me personally, Eleanor.Benet@gmail.com, while the site is being worked on. And now we are going to talk about why life so often happens so much better than we could have imagined. When the mind imagines something, it appears as a picture, a visual. But here's the thing, the body is not actually creating any of these visuals. The body is more like a radio receiver. It's picking up on signals. Because remember, creation's already finished, right? So creation's already finished, the body is a receiver. These images, they already exist. The body is simply tuning into them. So just like a radio, the radio is not creating the music, it's receiving the broadcast. And the same is true here. The body is simply receiving images. It's receiving the scenes, the impressions. And these impressions, they might appear as thoughts or imagination, but remember, creation's already done, right? Another analogy is considering that these images are like snapshots of movies, small scenes, little fragments. But here's the important part. The snapshots, they're not necessarily from the same movie, right? So this avatar, you're a radio receiver and you're picking up on these visuals and scenes. They could be from an entirely different experience, from another avatar, different timelines, who knows, right? What's important to understand is that this current body that it's in, it hasn't seen the unfolding yet from this present moment. So it might be more comforting to it to try and visualize. If it's maybe a lot of times it's out of fear because it can't imagine how this current reality is going to play out, right? But it hasn't witnessed it yet, and that's okay. It's learning and it's remembering to lean on me, be still and know that I am God. That its spirit is teaching this avatar, this instrument, the power of stillness. This scene, this movie clip that it's playing out is entirely new to the avatar, at least in its expression, right? And that's why when something happens in life, the body then says, wow, it turned out better than I imagined. Of course, because imagination is only tuning into fragments. Imagination is not as powerful as the present moment, right? So being present is where it's at. Source already knows. Source played it out already, but it's new to the avatar. So it rather will lean on something from the future or the past, what it's receiving as comfort. But we're here to remember that it needs to lean on truth. Trust flows into comfort as the avatar begins to trust more in the unseen. But the body, it just loves movement. It wants to do something. It wants to plan something. It wants to think about something, because the body is designed to move. But spirit, the source behind the body, is still. And that stillness can be unfamiliar to the body because it always wants to be in action. So the body tries to stay in motion through thinking, through imagining some form of movement, through planning. But stillness is where awareness is going to be recognized. There's a passage that says, "Be still and know that I am God." That message is not for spirit. Spirit already knows. That message is for the body. The avatar is teaching the body to trust stillness, to relax into the awareness that's guiding it. And this is where a really important distinction becomes helpful, because the body's been programmed to believe that it's the I. But there is the awareness behind the body. So let's use a simple example. Let's imagine your body's driving a car, right? Your body's behind the wheel. The car accidentally runs into a fence. So the police officer arrives on the scene and says, "You hit the fence." Well, technically, the car hit the fence. The vehicle hit the fence, right? But the officer says you hit the fence. Why? Because the vehicle becomes identified with the driver. The vehicle represents you. Now, hold that example and let's reflect on the body. When we say, "I'm reading a book," technically, the body's doing the reading. The body's eyes are seeing the words. The body's brain's processing the information. But behind the body is the awareness. The body's simply the instrument through which experience unfolds. So just like a violin is an instrument through which music is played. When somebody hears that beautiful music from a violin, they might say, "Oh wow, you're making such beautiful music." Well, again, technically, the music is coming from the violin. Yet the credit is given to the player. So the same thing is with the body. It becomes merged with the identity of I. But behind the body is the awareness animating it. And that awareness is source. And so that's why the presence is always going to be so powerful, because when the body becomes still, it begins to recognize that the awareness has always been there. The body imagines simply fragments, scenes, clips, but spirit is directing the film. And the movie that's unfolding right now, the one that's being lived through the body, is going to be the most extraordinary cinema that there is. This is a blessing for this body, this instrument that you chose in this lifetime, because it gets to be the instrument through which awareness remembers and recognizes itself, right? So remember, you don't have to lean on a visual or imagination. They're just simply snapshots in time. There's nothing more powerful than the present. Sometimes those snapshots just literally feel comfortable because it feels like that's how I want this to unfold. Well, the body doesn't know. It's limited in its knowing. It's just leaning on comfort. And that's why, again, when it remembers to stay present, when it trusts source, when it knows there's an awareness behind it that's moving this body, that the body itself isn't the I, it learns to trust and be still. And it too becomes a part of the unfolding of the play and says, okay, I'm interested in witnessing how this cinema unfolds. All the other snapshots, they're no different than matter. They're no different than that. I trust you, Source. The breath of life, what's fueling and nurturing this body. I trust you. If the body can trust enough to remain present, it's going to be witness to something remarkable. The unfolding of the story of life itself. And that story is always more beautiful, more surprising. It's always more powerful than anything the body could have imagined. So as we wind down, just remember, stillness is where it's at. If you want to hop on a call, have a discussion, comfort care calls is always available. And again, clarity doesn't come from outside advice. No matter where you get it from, it's still you. So just allow your own awareness to speak. And as always, I leave with this reminder: you are the awareness behind the experience. So until next time, continue to cultivate that awareness. And I'll see you on the next episode of Inner Cosmetics. Thanks for tuning in.